Tucson, Arizona. This is Nancy's neighborhood, and I'm parked over there, but there are no parking signs everywhere. And when I entered the neighborhood, there were no parking signs pretty much right away. It was about a mile away from her house. That was no parking. And I have to say, now that I am actually up here in her neighborhood, I had originally thought that uh, that this was could have been random, like maybe some of these South American theft groups um, may have just happened to target her house because of location or ease of access. But no, I'm pretty sure now that these people knew exactly who Nancy was and found her house. There's no way this is random, guys. There's no way this is random. And I mean, it's way out here. I mean, it's a beautiful area. It's very natural, but there's no way that they did not know who Nancy was. And this clears up a lot in my mind. Not having been out here and seen this, I'm sure that this has to be connected to Savannah somehow. And I'm not even, I can see why they came by on January 1st, or yeah, the 11th, the 24th, the 31st, because of the night. Because, I mean, there's so much brush. I mean, you cannot see the houses. And if you were going to get into a house, you would have had to have come out here first. And I'm going to be quick. I'm going to walk back that way because I've heard that there's bad cell reception here, and there is. Um, let's see, I'm getting close to her house. But yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. Let me see if I can turn this. There's no doubt in my mind that they would have had to have scoped this place out. And it's very, very sad. I want to, I want to state very clearly that, this is very sad. This is somebody's life. This is a woman who had children and lived here for 50 years. I mean, beautiful flowers. People have left beautiful flowers. And they're just beautiful. Some of them look like they might be artificial, but you can smell them. I mean, I'm walking past and I can smell these beautiful flowers. It's 3 months now since she's been gone. You can see some more signs across the street. And here is a sign, looks like, "Dear media, this neighborhood needs space to process, heal, and gather in privacy as a loving community. Please cover this tragedy from elsewhere so that we may have some privacy, space, and dignity." And of course, I'm not going to be here very long because of that. But really, until you're here, it's there's no way this was random. There's no way this is an organized, even the cartel. Even the cartel, there's no way. These people knew exactly who Nancy was. They knew that she was probably connected to Savannah. This is the driveway. There's a car coming, so I'm fully expecting to have somebody yell at me because I'm not supposed to be parked over there. Um, I left my car running so that look, somebody made a drawing of Nancy. box. If somebody took her from her home, I was thinking if maybe they had as far as Mexico, you know, thinking that she was gonna survive it. There's no way that they could have probably brought her back across. So, I think that it's definitely somewhere in, the area here. Good morning. Hi. It's been 3 months now, so it's very sad. Yeah, no, it's very sad, very emotional. I've been following it. Just breaks my heart. So yeah, like I said, there's no way that this was random, and they would have had to have known where she was. I'm gonna walk back this way because there's people are now out walking their animals and whatnot, and I'm not really supposed to be parked over here, so I'm gonna start walking back. But so here are my thoughts again. Um, they're just so far out in the middle of nowhere here that this is not random. They had to have known exactly who lived at this house. And they definitely had to have come out, and I would say even more than once. So they know January 11th, people came out. But there's no way, and they would have had to have walked completely around the property in order to see how to get inside. So I would say that they definitely spent a lot of yellow ribbons in the neighborhood. They definitely spent probably a good amount of time walking around trying to figure out the lay of the land and how they were going to get in. And, like I mentioned, so out here in Tucson, they probably went in thinking that she was going to survive and that they were going to be able to get, ransom money. Okay. And I do believe that if they got her out of her bed in the middle of the night, they were there for 42 minutes approximately the whole time. And, we don't know. We don't know what they were doing that entire time. But I believe that they may have gotten her up and had her staged in the living room. I suspect that they were going to go out the back door because they had the back door open and open with flower pots. But they probably realized she couldn't walk. She probably told them, I can't walk that far around the house. And yeah, it's very pretty. Thanks, Naples. Yeah, and you know what? It might be blurry because it's very bad cell service up here. And I'm sorry if it's been pixelated. It's um bad cell service up here. I'm gonna get back in my car now. So okay, so going back to what I was saying, the being in Tucson, if okay, so I believe that they probably staged her in the living room. This is all speculation, but they probably staged her in the living room. She probably told them she can't walk very far because she has back pain. And then they probably decided to take her out the front door, which is closer to the driveway, closer to the car. And um, I suspect that when they went to take her out the front door, she resisted and said, "Oh, hell no, I'm not going with you." And that's where to get her under control or something happened. But I believe that um, they hit her somewhere in the face, in the nose, in the stomach. I mean, people have thought that it could be bleeding from her nose, but it looks like she coughed it up. Um, express the blood drops on the front porch because they know that that is hers, and they got her out at that point to the car and then drove off. So the plan, of course, was that she was going to be alive. Um, and they were going to get the ransom money. Okay. And there is thought that the ransom notes, at least two or three of them, were connected to the actual kidnappers. So they take her away. We, still don't know about the car. Okay, but we know there had to be a car because this is way up. I mean, it's not even walking. There's no walking. So they take her away. Maybe they took her to Mexico because they thought they would be able to get her back across the border, but I don't think so. I mean, there are a lot of people who think, a lot of profilers think that this is probably somebody who's local because they sent notes to Tucson and there's some indications that they, are close by. I mean, I was driving in looking at the desert area because, it's like, is there any desert area that makes sense for them to have dumped her, after she expired? But there's just a vast array of spaces that they could have put her. And here's the thing. I believe that they took her to their location. They took her to a second location, and we don't know where that second location is. And so, depending on where the second location is, she probably only lasted a day or two. And after she expired, passed away, I mean, depending on where that second location is really where you would want to look in the desert, because we know we've had search groups offer to help. EcuSearch and the Cajun Navy have offered to come search, but and I know that the sheriff didn't get back to them and didn't accept their help, but honestly, I mean, probably would have been a waste of their time, even though I think that the sheriff should have taken advantage of any free resources at that time. At least try, okay? I mean, you have 100% chance of not succeeding and finding anything if you don't try, all right? And it would have been probably a small chance that they would have found her. And I'm talking early February before it got really, really hot, if they had any idea of where to search. But it really depends, in my opinion, it depends on where they took Nancy to that second location. Where's the second location? Because that is going to tell you most likely where they dumped her. And without knowing that, I mean, there's no way that they would have dumped her in an area around her home. That just doesn't make sense. And there's so many areas. I mean, it's endless. It's literally a needle in a haystack. Um, and I'm really surprised that there aren't more people out here. Since it's been 3 months. I mean, I really got invested in this story, and my sister, who I see she's actually here live. I'm not going to say who. It's neighbors realtor pilot. That's my sister. We took care of our 82-year-old mother, and she passed away a few years ago and had trouble walking. And I know that this story has affected a lot of people because, we've got elderly people, and I look at an elderly person as someone who needs, you know, varying degrees of care, like a small person, like a child, okay? And having an older woman, an 84-year-old woman, taken from her bed, to me, is very similar to a child. I mean, a child is worse, obviously, because a child, I mean, it's horrifying. But this really affected me because I think to myself, if this had been my mother, I mean, I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't know what to, I mean, it would just, I would be frozen. I'd be frozen. So I can only imagine how the family is dealing with this. It still has to be very difficult. It's only been 3 months. They're entering the fourth month now. And, you know, there's just no answers. And according to Brian Enton, who has, pretty good contacts, there are no suspects. They don't have any suspects. There's no one. And somebody's asking, "Hi, Jesse Miller. What's the topic?" So I have thanks, Chad. Investigators need to talk to the host. Thank you. Exactly. You know what? I could really help. I'm being sarcastic right now. So I walked up to Nancy's house, but there are signs all over the neighborhood not to park, and I'm literally the only YouTuber out here. I thought that there might be a few. It's very early at 7:30, 7:45. I didn't want to come out when it's super hot. I didn't know if I'd have to walk in. I'm kind of fudging it right now because I'm not supposed to be parked here, but I am. And I did walk up to Nancy's house a little bit ago. So if you hit the replay, you can see the memorial, and the flowers smell very, very pretty. It's just really emotional because they don't have a suspect that we know of. Okay, we know that there are hair samples that have been sent off. They believe that it's probably with a lab called Estrella. The FBI has been involved, and the fact that we just found out about these hair samples is a good sign, because we didn't know about them the whole, this whole 90 days, and until it came out. So that tells me that there is hopefully a whole lot more. And I could see, law enforcement giving a red herring, or, giving us false information, because if they have a lead on who did this, they especially now want to, they especially want to keep them calm right now. They want them to be calm and just chill. We don't need to flee. We don't need to freak out. So it's really best that if they have a lead on somebody, that that person feels very, very, very safe right now. And, they might be acting weird or have been around this time, but they probably feel like, okay, I've gotten away with this. They don't have anything. So, the FBI could definitely have information, or the sheriff's department, but at this point we don't think that there is. And again, just kind of going back to my thought driving in, this is so not random. This is the exact opposite of random. There's no way that whoever has done this did not know that this was Nancy Guthrie connected to Savannah Guthrie, and they definitely did this for money, I believe, for a kidnap for ransom. I still have to think that, does this tie back to anyone who was working at that restaurant where the Today Show did that segment where Savannah's having lunch with her mom and her sister, talking about being raised in the area and living in the area since childhood. And there's a lot of people around, could clearly see, you know, girl does good, grows up, starts her media career at the local TV station. There's the mom, there's the sister. And, I thought to myself originally, if this was targeted, why wouldn't they grab Annie? Um, Annie would have been much easier for them to take care of if they wanted to kidnap for ransom from Savannah. But honestly, they probably thought the mother, for sure, they're going to get more money for the mother. They probably did not take into account her mobility and her health issues, because they may have aborted that plan if they had known that they couldn't keep her alive in order to collect said ransom. And again, I believe that they started taking her out the front door that morning, and she resisted, which is smart. You do not ever want to be taken to a second location, even if, and they say, even if you literally die trying, you have to literally die trying not to be taken to a second location, because there's nothing good planned for you at a second location where they have control of the environment. And it's it's just not gonna be you're not gonna statistics show you're not gonna survive a second location. So, she probably resisted at the front door. That's where, she was hit and struck, and blood on the front porch. I do believe that there's a shoe print. I think somebody stepped in that. I think that the blood on the front porch that looks like a heel of a shoe. So I don't I'm sure that they've tested it. They had a tent, they had forensics out there. I'm sure that they've done everything on the front porch except take the mat. They never took the mat, which is very, very frustrating to many people. So, I think that the beginning of the end was at the front door where the physical confrontation happened, and she's injured, and that to me is the beginning of the end. Did she last 1 day? Did she last 2 days? They probably loaded her up, got her to the location, and then in just a matter of time, I'm sure she expired, and then they're like, "Oh, poop. What are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?" And again, wherever they put her in the desert, which FBI people are saying that they're going to immediately get rid of her. They don't, they're washing their hands. Um, the second location to me where they took her is going to be more evident in where her body would have been found. Naples is asking me to, hi, crushed. Welcome to Ohio where nothing makes sense. Hey, that's why this case is going to be used in um you know, forensics cases, and it'll probably be taught because, I've said just not that long ago, laughing, there's no way to commit a perfect crime in 2026. There's no way to commit a perfect crime between, cars with their computers and GPS and locations, cell phones, cell towers, cameras, face recognition. There's no way to commit the perfect crime. Well, guess what? It feels like these guys got really lucky. You cannot see the house from the street. I can walk. There are not a lot of people around here right now. If you guys want me to walk back up to the house, I will walk back up to the house. Um, I just came back to the car because there were some walkers and there's clearly signs, and I don't want to anger the neighbors. Honestly, my main thing is I don't want to piss the neighbors off. I'm very sensitive to them, but I'll walk back up to the house. Let me turn this around, and then I'll come back to one of the signs. But again, for about a mile into the neighborhood, there are signs